Hello, dear Fox News judges. 2 times that I called the FBI, they wouldn't communicate with me. And now I won't communicate with them. Then they took part with to also wire crimes, changing the wire crimes to worse by pretending it was email crimes, and with Weathersfield Police and other police forms, and other FBI and their family members. See, they're playing games. You can't call these people, they're not legit. There's like a syndrome with people who answer desks and rely on experts, including, don't you guys have stuff declassified from yourselves? Because whatever you're doing to justify locations or tactically criminally foreign influences before our founding parents were born, this design pathology of, tactically denatured, everyone relying upon food, you can't, everything's, even the worms are no longer going into the puddles like they used to go into the puddles. We're going to have problems with the food cycle. They're going to start eating different things. That's why they have the problems, the birds. You think we're supposed to be the only species here? Our distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to the rest of space nature, where it is special, it's getting forced away from there. And it's self-value because that is used remotely originally and still. What is slavery about? It was about how all locations, areas, and states were used remotely. If anyone tried to speak up about it, they would sense it and hurt that person. Everyone around that person is not a unity. Even before cars, people don't see each other each day. And the people that see each other, they're furthering lie progressions, illusions with that, per the uses of each age of fact-keeping nature, per a method that was sophistication here since before our founding parents were born. Box sayings. It teaches things. So, in other words, the FBI is involved with NBC Connecticut News. Please respond on here, NBC Connecticut News. You see that they also attached me to fake conversations with one and or both of the two Mendez police brothers who are involved on and off the Britain Superior Court, on and off the Weathersfield Police Department with people since I was a kid. They attached me to fake words. I didn't even have a conversation at all with the older brother. I didn't have a conversation with him. I had someone communicate for me, in fact. And they put me in fake communication with him because he was involved with this thing where they say your names of other people to other people so you'll remember their names. It's like an identity theft fraud role. That which recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed there's worse than criminal incompetence, speaking and having spoken for how black and white was used. And when all exceptions are in demonstration of the same thing, but rather than value that, people are obfuscating state collusion roles, arrays of opinions still in collusion with that logic towards fake care for democracy. What about the Republic? What about outside of courts? They're outside of courts. See, they were used remotely originally still. So we have victim predators remotely. So we have to show how everyone was used predator because that's how correlation could only discern it. Because that's where and how it was is used remotely, including the lie progressions and or illusion progressions, and where and how we are a value progression, reliant upon simple short words and their revelations and are actually inherent, active, and simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously present means. Progressive. See, per science. Science doesn't use theory. Science, what is true always. People want to debate what's true always, using science as a bridge, using time simultaneously too fast, too slow. So what we have is people attaching people of each age of fact-keeping nature to fake words, fake locations, fake sequence relationships. There's a Joshua Julian involved with a principal child abusers campus who's also involved with the wire crimes with the agencies retired and standing. I don't know Paul Vance. There are people involved with WFSB and all along Elm Street and along Route 3 involved with placements in classrooms near me. With people I don't know the names of all exception age. In other words, some of them I should have wrote down their names. In other words, but I wasn't paying attention to things. These are people involved with offensive. See, in other words, what were the witch trials about? Even especially differentially if it was made up. The witch trials, if they were made up, the witch trials were about offensive evidence reception, illness, syndrome. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a criminal. This is since before the World Trade Center attack, after there was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed other ways. But before the World Trade Center attack, Hartford courts and New Britain courts and other courts were involved with West Hartford, per the people involved with their families that worked for them, and with on off a serial killer's body you don't spot. That is also involved with this pattern of preventing me words offensively. Now, when I was in 6th grade, and when I was in high school, other ways, people made confessions. And it was time when I came around corners, when other people came around corners, they even made an exception one time. Times when I would be right in the middle, they would say statements, and then those people got involved later with untimely deaths on off the campus of Trinity College, as people rolls their little cliques with timed uses of the corners of the streets near me, and their confessions rolls that brought up their principal child rolls offenders with on-off campuses connected untimely deaths, Wethersfield Police, Jamie Smith, and a David Smith. See, they have other things. They have roles with ecstasy and things like that, as their mother involved with some guy that with them, also with the selling of the ecstasy, but also the answering the phones of the police through time. And these are Wethersfield Police involved with a former director of the F.B.I. And there's a Whiting forensics place involved with state police forms through time, involved with corruption, also with the corruption as victims, but as victim predators. That's a little theater when where they're evil is where and how they pretend to they put themselves in other people's business just to stay halfway theater conversations and say, oh, leave an expert to decide. Nobody knows. They're replacing what's actually recorded. They're not following the law outside of courts, and they've been switching names and forging names interbranch. They have been preventing me writing since I was a kid, because they have a kid who stole a speaker box, and the one who and they arrested him in my car with it. But the person he stole it from is also one of the ones involved with the judges that were speaking fake in the police forms and prosecutors speaking fake things into records. They're making fake sides. And these are people on and off the state prison offices involved with, child abuses of juxtaposed natures, drugs, crimes of juxtaposed natures, as ones with ones who have badges and have guns, and they're doctors of psychology, psychiatry, delusions, rot. Then you have a whole bunch of employments that are sociology and stuff like that. The constituencies of the political parties are self-value, to bridge constitution nature, for example. They can't defend themselves with their logic and us at the same time. They can't defend the republic at the same time. They have to pretend they care about their feelings are hurt because of notions about democracy. They are in collusion with what keeps people in groups psychos, because it is tied to what I caught them doing even since before that, because I found out that per phenomenon. In other words, in 2006, in a district court case in Connecticut, and leading up to that, people are involved with the wire crimes and mail crimes against me, and with a whole bunch of names tied to a principal child abuser's campus. And they forced this with roles with Whiting forensics and their uses of the Facebook pages interbranch. New Britain Superior Court's Facebook pages, other courts distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and the Facebook pages of the campuses. See, they're pretending passions and emotions against people who are saying, oh, that's hate speech or that. In other words, they should have, if they care so much, they should have cared on time In other words, they're involving people with it. They're themselves with instances that there are also foreign, not just a whole bunch of other nations here and there, but what is fluent through them. Keeps everyone stupid. Keeps everyone uses of their names here and there that can't defend themselves and afford our founders what they wanted us to use correlation natures, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means to discern. It's not just to sound impressive. I say the correlation natures distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous. Inherent, active, and progressive means, because we're discerning the invisible but still discernible, such as the value of a properly formed sentence as opposed to an improperly formed sentence, note which is not going to convey complete understanding. See, we have a quality of fact-keeping nature that is prevented, means that are simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive to demonstrate when people were lying about the law and the value of democracy, to hide how our founders what our founders wanted us to get unhidden. No, in other words, to reveal, to unmask. In other words, I don't know what that means to them. Apparently, that has something to do with that. Would they give themselves up? That's why I'm trying. One of the reasons. In other words, they have things classified, declassified. In other words, they speak for the law. They can't defend their logic when they speak for the law and afford discern what our founders wanted us to discern. They didn't have free speech. If they as a quality of fact, that's why they had to put those theaters up, but with people just to fight for the parts of the Constitution abridged, though. See, everyone was a criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatments and collusion as victims only capable. So where it counts, where we are fact-keeping or democracies, leave it up to the politicians. They love it because they came to that position like everyone else, whoever comes there. In other words, for the wrong reasons, though. See, the same people would be completely different fact-keeping nature if we were in a positive value nature progression, and if the campuses and their system and their actual why and how they were revealed. See, more probably the English was revealed in ancient times before semi-ancient criminal foreign influences over the nature of the sciences and the reception of themselves, which was as dependent upon the other countries, A through Z, being different, so we could discern different the complete identity. That all complete identities are a semi-nature relationship to the hyper simultaneous. That is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously what being an individual is, while you are simultaneously being grouped, locations, areas, ages, sexes, jobs, and then layered. Such things were locked into place. This is how computers work, because computers are mimicking the 1/3/5 identities of sequence nature. How it is 3 bonded and how it is 5 bonded are only exceptions in exception nature and demonstration of the same thing, though. But, and also, which is showing what exceptions in exception nature are about. So in every modern country, locations, areas, and states have 3 branches of government manifest. And they have exceptions in exception nature that are increasingly their value. But increasingly their value needing to hide lie progressions, individually finite, grouped, and together. And further, because all that was used remotely originally and still. So what we need is to have mandated law followed outside of courts. But all positions were forged incapable of following mandated law and needed to pretend other. So they force and keep people fighting about debatable and preventing anyone, debatable that is tactically abridged, conviction nature, opinion nature, like when they say racism caused that. Even if that's not true, but even if that were true, that would, saying that and not letting people speak what's really recorded, it was a breaching method. Here, in other words, it was criminally foreign influence locations. Everyone was a fact sheet. If anyone spoke up about things, I learned at Central Connecticut State University in the notes. People spoke up about certain things against the law. That's against the law, unless you did it in a little context where it was measured, because they had a whole bunch of countries where they didn't go into it like that. But I'm saying that's what they had, a whole bunch of countries. And they had measured database relationships since before computers. That was said to us. So, in other words, we have to have mandated law. We have to have, in other words, you can't have the press attaching and the news media, the wire, now all kinds of, they have roles with uses of the sense and sensibilities of the leaders of World Wide Web, like networking companies, like Facebook, or like, or like Twitter. And see now, one of the reasons they had to block Donald Trump, if he wasn't involved with it, plausibly. One of the reasons anyway is because they've been getting involved. There's an Ian, I don't know, who was one of the people involved with a schedule family and people that lived near them, with sequence shifts, involved with various natures of wire crimes when I was a little kid, drugs crimes with kids, uses of that to get them for identity thefts and frauds roles, and with judges speaking fake things into records, and with people stealing from other people and the people they're stealing from already being and having been involved. See, they're painting fake arrays. They're involved with, what is now predicate acts, whether they realize or not. And as their roles with people, everyone's speaking to other, but it's also on and off the downtown Hartford near the state prison, the state capitol. And as one's also on and off Elm Street in Rocky Hill through time since I was a kid. There's a Mark Violet and Mike Violet, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a O'Brien family. So I didn't say anything to the FBI. I just told them what was actually recorded on Facebook. See, that's why they had to take my Facebook pages too. And I told, and there were these people were threats. I don't even remember what I told them. But they don't want, they're making things up. They're pretending Americans have conspiracy theories. All this time, they didn't let us tell about the conspiracy theory that President Kennedy was telling us about. And more, because every individual can discern it distinctly. For example, why they have people forsaken, where people are pretending to be about science with passions and emotions. Oh, but I'm a science towards this. But why they make opinions when someone tries to use for evidence, where and how they are glaring, overt, / insidious, simultaneous examples of where and how, where we are grouped, where we are unity, and where we are divided. They're both employed to worse than obfuscate that no one was allowed to speak about originally and still. When did it stop? That they were, they put up the Constitution. Oh, now we just have to wait. Go. There were still locations, areas, and states couldn't defend themselves. And not, self-value, mass criminal insidiousness natures, wrongdoers, styles of logic, and needing to pretend other. You need to stay positive. See, this is a torture method, too. See, before the World Trade Center attack, the people that were involved with the wording of that, with the internationally and nationally, here and there, against their own too, their own personal wordings of the law and acceptations of it, where they made torture legalized. They've been speaking about the religions as science. They've been delusions wrought. They've been involved also simultaneously criminally foreign influence though. So now there's a style that accounts for both of that, of logic and of names uses, identity uses, therefore name uses, sequence uses. Now this is sustained from when people are on the youngest grades, where and how that breaching method knew, where and how we'd have to defend ourselves at that level, where we're one body, the species volume science, and we can only be at one stage at the same time. So that's why there are no worms in the puddles every time it rains now, and no one even realizes, because everyone's been on tactically denatured identity ground, identity of relationship to itself too long. Boxings. So Leith of Hadith is more probably forced space nature transfer. One identity's positive onto all parts of itself. Extra concentrated, positive identity of relationship to itself at Earth, where it can make more and more consciousness forever as forever nature that is more positive, that is also positive onto and has its own systems positive, complete. Otherwise it is forced from here. Leith of Hadith. Our value as nature / nature as value. We are our quality of diffusion. Not just because we are living now and having lived already, and for the progressive value. This is to show us the quality of diffusion. This is to show us its system that is greater than, and it was finer than, all parts of space nature since before they were generated. Part of it is too big to fit into temporary space nature. Part of it is too finite to fit into temporary space nature. And this is more probably, and is demonstrably, how English had been revealed by the ancients to be taught. And before, sciences became criminally foreign influence after that, in semi-ancient times. Control the minds. So locations, areas, and states became individual countries, grouped countries, and the species identity of volume /s. Now abridged, as a bridged constitution from its native, pure system and method by uses of those differences for the discernment of the hyperdifference. Note how women have a way that they could speak and communicate that men could never, they could never match it. All exceptions, exception nature, demonstration of the same thing. Know how men could yell better than, all exceptions, exception, demonstration of the same thing, better than women. When one person or one value is positive unto itself, it is also positive unto all, everything, everywhere at once. Boxings to campus dunce with stolen name. Return it to the rear. The timeless one that fills forever's course. Diffusion's quality of fact, human nature. See, inventions work or not in relationship to what itself, the hyper-simultaneous. Only the extent of it is debatable. Now we're using science. We're not using the name because we're not supposed to agree about the name. Because it's also in a phenomenon where and how the letters as sounds are bound or gathered around by the invention, by the identity of hyper-simultaneous nature, that inventions work or not in relationship to it, and they are further positive or not in relationship to it. And that is only increasing, which is also why and how we could discern this. The value of it is only increasing. And so, and how it is only increasing too is as one thing / S. And that's relative to where and how we are 1/3/5 identities of the same hyper-simultaneous natures, exceptions, as is its exceptions, and exception nature is itself. Boxings of Santa's elf. Evolution science only feels like games because evolution science, because it goes by what really is going to cause positive value nature progressions, acts in nature. It means out of nowhere, especially regarding fact achievement nature means. It's not going to come from some people with a plan that we can't know about, which is all the parties do this. That's all they were made capable of doing. That democracy narrative, those racism narratives, those white superiority narratives, those people there was a black kid, I don't even know his name, and they put a street near him. 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike are involved with identity thefts and frauds. They had a black kid attack me around a corner. Now there are men and women associated with child offenders on the registry that are also involved with the agencies in a whole bunch of other countries, on off Wethersfield town offices, also on medical campuses and the spots next to it. Now, so there are overt criminal enterprises in collusion with the F.B.I. and other agencies, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed on Facebook. That's why one of the reasons to take Facebook pages, because they've been replacing what's actually recorded audio and video with fabricated audio and video transcripts, spreading lies to cover their lie progressions. So these are people involved with insights where Washington, D.C., and with the World Trade Center, and with and everyone associated with them pretended they had the integrity to speak for the law, and that's measured. That's measured. This is per a method, a breaching method, human fact achievement nature breaching method, a predicate acts delivery system method, if you will, that was here since an identity theft / fraud